So Nancy, you were at St. Matthew's UMC in Annandale for what, close to 50 years?
I was a director of music with my husband for 30 of those years, and then he passed away and we did it together. And so then I took the youth choir. Actually, he gave me the youth choir before he died because he was tired of it. And I was already doing youth in bells. And he said, Nancy, you're okay with youth, because I used to say when I started the bell program, I don't ever want to teach high school kids because they make me nervous and they have attitudes. But once I got the bells to the 8th grade, the parents said, so what are you going to do next year? I said, oh, I'm going to teach the bells. But then it was, would you take the youth choir? So then I said, of course. And so then, I mean, I've done youth for years and don't know why I had that little frightening point, but I did.
And youth can be scary. Like
they can be.
They sum you up and judge you in a moment.
Yes, but I learned how to deal with them.
Yeah. And then you retired in what, 2019? I mean, even though most musicians never actually retire, you formally retired now.
Yes, and I'm still there.
Right.
I'm singing in the choirs and I'm ringing in 2 bell choirs.
Excellent.
And love it.
Your group, the Carol Ringers, that was, and other groups as well, of course, but has really made a mark as being a really strong faith-based, church-based handbell ensemble and program that you have there. So we're curious. I mean, not that many people. We were just speaking on another interview about handbells being a fairly young instrument in comparison with a lot of orchestral instruments, which is true. But you've seen a journey here in the instrument itself over the last half a century or so. We'd love to just pick your brain, and don't worry about the puppy. They're fine. We had cats earlier. It's all good.
Okay.
Just talk to us about, sort of that evolution, what you've seen over your time in the instrument itself with techniques and notation and repertoire and stuff, just firsthand accounts of things you'd like to share that you've seen as the evolution of the instrument.
When Margelato came about, the kids thought bells had just really become cool. So unfortunately, I did use that a lot with the youth, not as much. I was regular with it with the adults, but then when we added the chimes, that was wonderful. The new director, who was with me all these years, Tammy, someone just purchased the silver melody bells for us. Ooh. And so now we're using those, and that's exciting.
Yes.
And then we added a gong because we had a Christmas piece that needed a gong.
If you have a triangle, you can do Bill Payne's first piece.
What?
I said, if you have a triangle, you can do Bill Payne's first piece. The very first piece he ever wrote for handbells was handbells, triangle, and gong.
Yes.
Only you can find a triangle.
Right.
I'd already added, and sometimes when the composer didn't ask for it, I already added other things. And then the school where I taught with, actually Nick Hansen has that job now. And he's had it for 20 years, and I had it for 11 years. And they gave us, because they had a lot of money there and someone gave them a new set of timpani, we got 4 timpani gifted to us. What people ask me a lot is, how have you kept a youth program going? And Betty Gurry and I did a workshop or a class on that at one of the festivals, because she and I had become friends and we realized we had programs that were nearly identical. She had done it longer than me and I was in awe of her. And until I saw that she raised her voice at her kids during a rehearsal. We were rehearsing our choirs one after the other, and we came a little early, and she got after her kids big time, and I just smiled. When she turned around, she said, "You're here." I said, "Yes, you've given me much hope." I always thought you talked quietly to your youth. She said, and they all laughed. So that, unfortunately, she didn't live much longer after that, but we had similar programs. And I think going on tour was a great big one. And then fortunately, I live in a wonderful area with the Kennedy Center nearby. And in 1981, 3 years after I started children, and then there were youth, we auditioned for the Kennedy Center to play just in the hall. Then about 10 to 15 years later, they started the Millennium Stage. And so we played on the Millennium Stage ever since the middle of the 90s when it began, and are even doing it this year. Awesome. And it's very exciting to play there. And the parents absolutely love it when their kids are in such a setting. And then 3 times we got to play on the stage in the concert hall. That was the most exciting moment because I was nearing probably 10 years from maybe retiring. And a friend of mine said, "What's left on your bucket list?" And I said, "I want to play my carol ringers to play on the stage, solos, not accompanying a chorus, but solos. And I want to stand on the same podium that the National Symphony Orchestra director stands on." And a month later, the director of one of the big choruses in DC called me and said, "I know that you played on our stage and accompanied us, but we've never had you do solos. Would you like to do 5 solos next Christmas?" Oh my goodness, I jumped at that. And that was truly one of the most exciting moments for me as a conductor and for the kids.
Yes.
They realized the gravity of this situation.
For sure.
I didn't have my best. I'll take that out. And the choir that year had lost a lot of seniors. So when we started in September, 4 very quiet young men who were wonderful bass ringers, but never talked very much, were very musical. They came to me and said, "We're not going to make it. We can't play at the Kennedy Center like this."
Oh.
I said, "I have hope. We'll just wait, give it time." We went through October, November, and in December when we did our rehearsal with the choir, but it was at another place. And the director, Michael, you might understand this. The director said, "We're going to take a break now so you can practice." And they all stood around while we practiced.
Oh.
And I don't like to have an audience when we practice.
Yeah.
It's the most frightening thing. And the kids played beautifully. And so then I took the 4 boys after that rehearsal. I said, "I told you to have hope." And they said, "We are so excited." I said, "Yes, it happened, and it will happen Monday night and Friday night and Saturday night and Sunday night. It will happen."
That's awesome.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So those things actually are what over the long years have kept me excited about the program. It's the playing of that beautiful piece and trying to emphasize with the kids, once you get it learned, that it's not about a missed note here or there. It's about the beauty that you bring to people.
Yes.
And that every Sunday morning, it's that same beauty you need to bring to people so that they can have a wonderful, awesome experience listening to you and feel in the presence of God while they listen to you.
Amen.
And your job as one of God's children is to perform or to play. I tried not to use perform, but that does come out because it truly is.
No, we know what you mean colloquially, though. Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And my goal every Sunday was, and my prayer with them before was that we play for the glory of God as the first thing that we think of. And always I was that with the children, with the youth, with the adults. And now I am having a thrilling time playing. I've gotten over how to turn pages when you're a ringer instead of a director, because you can goof with page turns when you're a director forever. You can probably direct the whole piece. I'm not a Michael Glasgow or a Bill Payne and play it all by memory, but
very kind of you.
But I've learned how much fun it is. I said the other night, I'm in the most advanced adult choir. We have 2, and I play F and G 5, and I stay there the whole time. Everybody else moves.
Oh.
But a man named Truman, I'm 83, he's 80, and we stay in the same bells. And then on the other choir, I play the high bells, and I'm challenged by that. But I truly love all the different techniques that composers put in the music. and have learned how to mark my music well. Well, I learned that a long time ago with kids and adults, and well-marked music. And I now write the measure numbers in big, because the older I get, the smaller the numbers get.
True. And they get fuzzy.
Glasses.
Yes. And actually, Tammy said that the other day. She's 20 years younger than me, but she said, I'm beginning to lose those numbers, Nancy. What can I do? I said, do you want me to mark your music? So I did. I've taken her music and put measure numbers in. And but there's just so many different ways to play now, much more than there used to be. And it was exciting.
Yeah.
But we still do Sleigh Ride every year because it is the most popular Christmas piece ever written.
It's just fun.
And it works well so well.
And we start out in September going da 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 da. And I think this must be the millionth time I have rehearsed this piece. So actually, Tammy is going to be gone in a couple of days for that rehearsal. And she said, do Sleigh Ride for them for at least a half an hour. I said, oh, I'll work out the problems. I know where they are.
Yeah.
That's that key changed.
Yes. Yes. And the triplets.
And the horse neighing at the end.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Nancy, I remember, I think it was 2012. Michael, you might remember too. Nancy brought her group to Disneyland when the Area 12 conference was there. Did you do that?
Yes, we did.
Yep.
So when Michael asked you what was on your bucket list, I was like, she's going to say, we're going to Disneyland, but because that's what everybody says.
we didn't play a solo at Disneyland. We have been to Disney World several times. And the best time that we played inside, because it's always 95 degrees outside, and we've done that. But they asked us to play in the President's Hall.
Nice.
And so I knew that all year. So I picked a Handel piece, and I picked Passacaglia, and I'm not sure, I think I picked a Bach piece because I wanted some stately music. And they wanted us to play one time. And when we finished playing, the people went into the hall, they came over to me and said, can you stay and play another time? I said, yes, if you want us to play a couple times, we probably could. And the kids heard me. They said, yes, yes, yes. So we had a perfect audience and a wonderful setting. And that was an exciting time.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Wow.
Going on tour was the biggest challenge. And we went on 40 of those.
40 tours. Oh my gosh, Nancy.
And we stayed in people's homes, which you can't do anymore. Or we don't do that anymore.
Kids,
but the discipline of going on a tour and letting these kids go to people's homes and going over which shower curtain goes inside and outside and how not to put the towels on the floor and to make the room look just like it should, to write a note and to leave a gift and to be able to talk to these people. At the beginning, they didn't ask me what to talk about, but the last 5 or 6 years of doing this from like 2015 on, what do we talk about? So I gave them ideas. If their grandparents, ask about their grandchildren, and you won't have to ask another question.
Right.
And if they have an animal, that's another good thing. Don't ask them where they went to college, because they might not have. And you don't want to get into that. And you don't need to ask them what they did unless they start to talk about it. And if you come into the house and some great dessert is on the table and you think you're going to get it, you might not. So, which I ran into, Strawberry Festival, and she had all her things to take to the Strawberry Festival the next day. I never got a piece of the strawberry pie.
Oh no.
And for breakfast.
Nancy, that's really great. The life skills that you taught.
Yes.
That's invaluable. And it's interesting that, as musicians, especially when we're dealing with youth, how impactful that is, even aside from the music. I mean, there's the maturity and the social skills and everything. And I think that's fabulous.
Well, and I started taking them on a retreat early on over Labor Day weekend. We took the choir. First, I took the bells and then the choir, and they all slept through the choir rehearsal after they played bells for 2 days. So I twisted that around, and we got the musical practice just started with some fantastic bit of choreography. And that's how I kept those kids. and then the bells came. Or some of the kids did, most of the kids did both. But for a day and a half, we practiced bells. And so we were ready. The first Sunday in September, the youth were fantastic. And then the second group was this, and the second group of adults were the second Sunday, because we had 2 services. Then you got the children who had just started playing, who didn't read music yet and read the charts that I made. And they could play in church right away. And if you get them and their parents sitting out there, you have them for a lifetime, usually.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Puppies agree.
So Nancy, what would you say? What advice would you give to a young director or a young church musician who's just starting a handbell program? They're just leading this church group. What advice would you give someone fresh out of the box?
Don't try to do too much the first few times.
Mm-hmm.
Pick an easy piece that might sound a little harder. Big chords,
Mm-hmm.
marlato, and mallets, things like that sound impressive for them to play in church the first time. And don't correct their ringing very much the first few rehearsals if they're brand new and the kids are brand new. Now, if they're brand new and the kids aren't brand new, then I guess you need to display your knowledge a little bit, but not lording it over them or anything, and still pick a piece that's attainable.
Right.
Yeah.
Or 2 pieces for the first, and only pick 3 anthems for church. If you're doing a church choir, 3 anthems, one for September, October, November, and then teach the Christmas music. If you haven't completed running through every Christmas piece by the end of September, you're too late.
Wow.
Fair.
That is my best advice for that first. And I learned the hard way. I learned everything I did by doing something wrong.
And
be organized. When you come to rehearsal, know what you're going to do and know what measure you're going to start on. You don't always have to play the piece completely through, even though everybody wants to do that. And the more you go along, and the ringers will say, our adults, can we play it all the way through? No, we have something else to work on. And always be so organized, especially with children. When you start with children, you better know everything you're going to do, every single thing, and don't do it for more than 3 or 4 minutes. Move to the next thing. There weren't many games around then, so I made up some. And the easiest one were when I gave workshops, people would call me, what's that rhythm game you did? And it was great. It moves kids around the table to a different position easily while they're ringing and doing something. And it's just a little rhyme. And they can change positions, and they never knew they did, really. And then they have, I use letters on posters with the melody in one color and the chords underneath in another color. I put them on thin paper at first, that big newsprint.
Mm-hmm.
And then I learned how much I needed them. So I put them on a poster, handwritten. And 10 years later, a new lady came into my life at church. She said, are you taking that poster into church? I said, yes. She said, oh, let me show you. You can make computer letters. So she made a whole poster for me with computer letters. And then she laminated it. And I still have that poster from 1992. And it looks as good as it did then.
Excellent.
So I have and when I was doing children, I lined up all these posters on the music stand in the order I wanted to do the day.
Mm-hmm.
And at first, of course, I was much younger and could remember all these things in a row, but always do something fun, interspersed like 5 or 6 times. Michael knows how to do that in a festival.
But yeah, I mean, keeping people engaged, especially if they're younger ringers, is
yeah.
I mean, hey, you're talking to 2 people who are proud ADHD
Yeah.
citizens of the world. So yeah, keeping it fresh. And I think, just to touch back on what you said about start with something that's basically kind of an easy win or a guaranteed success. So many times I hear people saying, well, I need to challenge them. I need to stretch them. They need to grow. And they forget that for a lot of these folks, just the act of holding a handbell and being in a handbell group is unto itself a stretch and a growth opportunity. So don't frustrate them before you've kind of hooked them. you know?
to be
Don't make them,
successful.
especially children, well, anybody, don't make them ring exactly right at first. It's
Yeah, have a
okay.
good time.
If they
Bye.
get a sound, if they get a
Yes.
sound out of the bell, if they don't, then they're frustrated. But they do it all kinds of ways and it doesn't make any difference. They make a sound and it goes. But it's much better to hear a bell choir play something easy well
Yes.
than something hard
Yep.
poorly.
Yep.
The congregation knows.
Nancy,
And
it's
unfortunately, some years, the first time we played, the experienced, well, some older bell ringers I've had that weren't in the choir anymore. This was the worst fall opening. She came up and she said, well, you don't have the group you had last year.
oh no.
I was so angry. I said, there's 7 new people in the group. And we have only practiced, I was very frustrated. That really upset me. She was the
Yeah.
only one that ever said something like that.
You know what? I think when there are roadblocks and challenges, or even dare we say failures or misses, those are still valuable because they're learning opportunities and or milestones unto themselves. I
Yes.
remember, calling my mom and saying, "Oh my God, I got my first piece rejected. I got my first rejection letter," and she went, "Okay, help me here. Like, why do you sound excited?" I said, because I don't have to ever have a first rejection ever again. I've like crossed that off the list. It's a
That's
rite of
good.
passage. You're going to have it eventually. Just get it over with.
Right.
And then, and the idea that everybody's just coming in having fun. Then when it's hooked, then you can start digging in.
Yeah.
But gosh, I mean, we've all got I remember back in the days, my early church time when there was any given Sunday at the early service, I may have a quartet. Maybe. And I remember one of my altas, this sweet old woman who's sadly no longer with us, she was always so cheerful and had this really swoopy sing-songy voice. And I remember walking out of the church feeling devastated after that anthem was just a train wreck. And she goes, "Well, you had your first flop." Like, and I'm like,
That's great.
and now wisdom comes and it's like, oh yeah, that was a good thing to get it done with, get it over.
Our first festival was the 25th anniversary of AGEHR in 1979 in Maine. 1,200 people. I'd never been to a festival before, didn't know anything.
What's your first?
Brought this group of 9 youth, grades 6 through 9.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody, Donald Ayred was the director. They didn't have a place for us on the floor. Helen Flanagan goofed.
Oh no.
And they put us in 3 different dorms. And so I had to change that around because you can't chaperone. I just hadn't done this before.
Right.
And I thought it was the most miraculous sound, though, that I'd ever heard in my whole life. And people played solos. After the first solo, the kids came to me, "Can we come again? Can we come next year? Can we play a solo?" So the next fall, that would be 80, Hart Morris came out with the first Carol of the Bells. It was a really great arrangement. You probably both know it.
It's got the C5 in the treble clef. That one.
Yeah. Well, E and F in the treble clef, high, hardly ever plays. And we're playing it this year because I asked Tammy if we could play it just as a memory for me.
Yeah.
And this one lady, she's right beside me. She says, "I don't play at all." And every rehearsal, she's a good friend of mine. "I don't play at all." I said, "You know what? I know you don't play at all. I acknowledge that. So see if you can only tell me once during each rehearsal."
Give her the
She said,
gong
"I get the
part.
message."
Yeah, give her the gong.
Yeah.
Bum, bada, bum, bum, bada, blah.
Anyway, yeah, we played that with my kids, and it got so good that I decided that would be our solo piece. And then we were supposed to play 2 at that time. You played 2, so we did a piece by Martha Lynn Thompson that I know exactly what it is, but I can't get the words out. Anyway, we were last on the program of that concert, and we were scared to death. Martha Lynn had come in and heard her piece, and she said to me, "How do you have your bells set?" I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "Well, do you have them set on hard or medium?" I said, "Oh, they're all the way. They've been for 2 years." And anyway, she said, well, sounds really good. It was a Liebeslieder waltz.
Ah, yeah.
Okay.
And so she liked that. And I turned back to the kids. I said, that's the arranger. She's famous. I said, she liked it. And so then Donald Ayered was there also, not the director. And he was in the audience. We played the Liebeslieder waltz, and then we played Carol the Bells. And it was like magic. I couldn't believe it. It was perfect. And I had goosebumps, and everybody stood up, and I have a record of it. And Donald Ayered said, is on there, fabulous. You can hear it on the record. And we bowed and stood up, and then they kept applauding. And then when it was over, I turned around to the kids, and we all, even the boys, were crying.
Aww.
And I've said that at that moment, I knew I wanted to do this for the rest of my life. And those moments, they're hard to reach. Many times you don't know when they're going to come. And one time in the smallest church that we ever played in, there were probably 60 people, but they were packed in this tiny little church. And of course, it was, I always say 95 degrees, but when we go to the Northeast, there's always a heat wave. And they say, oh, it doesn't get hot here, but once or twice a year. I said, well, this is one. And last year it was that way. Anyway, we were doing Dobrinsky's Nocturne, one of the first Nocturne in A minor.
I love it.
No, we were doing something else. I can't remember what it was. Anyway, every night, it was harder than that, but it was her piece. And every night we just played it. And we practiced it and practiced it. And so this night, when we were practicing other things, I sat him down and I said, you know what? We have not accomplished beauty in this piece yet, ever. And I said, I want it so badly, but I don't think it's worth practicing it. I think it's worth talking about how we feel inside. And I said, it's not about notes. I said, this piece, and I mentioned the measure. Oh yeah, they said, I said, this piece soars. Take a little time. I've been trying to get you to stretch it. And I think if you really, you know it so well, watch me and let's make this piece a beautiful experience for the audience. Well, I'm sorry, I'm gonna break up here.
You got me tearing up too. It's okay. Nancy.
Sorry.
No, this is exactly what we've been talking about, the power of music to bind hearts together and to move people in unexpected and expected ways. I mean, that's been the through line on all these discussions is, you know, it's not just about the notes and the technique and the whatever. It's about a language that we can all identify with.
Making a human connection.
Yes.
And they soared on that piece. It was so thrilling. It was so beautiful that when we finished, I didn't turn around. I just stopped. They all kept their eyes on me. And then I turned around. The audience didn't clap, thank goodness. I said, you have just been in the presence of beauty. And to me, that's what I look for all the time. And it's hard to find. But in that tiny little church, on this little tour, they got it. And all of those kids still, well, they're all adults and have kids, and some of them are in the bell choir, but they remember that night.
Of course.
And they said that was the most wonderful piece I ever played that night. And to me, that's worth everything. And that's how you keep kids. You know, you can do all the fun things, and we do on tour. If you do a whole day of traveling, and the next day, I'm even in the tubing down a river, afraid I'm gonna go under. And but planning good activities for them. And like on the retreat, we have fun games and skits and all of this stuff that we do. And that keeps them they know each other so well
Mhm.
after all these years. And most of them really stayed 13 years, started singing in kindergarten, started playing bells in 3rd grade, and then graduated when they were senior.
That's wonderful.
What a legacy. Well, I don't know any better anecdote to end it on, Nancy. Thank you so much for the inspiration and the history and just all of the perspective you brought to this. I'm feeling all in that mid-afternoon slump that was starting, like lifted right up out of it. So
And
thank
I'm
you.
really sorry that I don't go. I went to the seminar last year when Tammy took her group and they played the opening concert, which was spectacular. They did a wonderful job and they had such great reception. And it was up in Hartford.
Yeah.
And we went northeast a lot because Area 1, this wouldn't want to be said out loud, I guess. Area 1 knows how to give a festival. They're just,
They've been
they
doing
know
it the
how to do
longest.
it.
Yes.
And so I went to that area so many times. And I remember when, I have to share this one more thing. We went to, I guess it was Illinois, I think where you were. And they were in the front row. Behind them was a group, a lady, her last name is Miller, and she's a tiny little lady with a big tan. And she, 10 years before, had been at a festival with us, and they'd been behind us, and the carol ringers talked too much. And she didn't tell me. And for 10 years, I attended seminars with her. She didn't tell me. So we had almost finished setting up, and she came in and started setting up, and she came over to me and she said, I hope your group doesn't talk like they did. I said, when was that? She said, when Dave Harris was directing. And I said, they did talk a lot then, didn't they? I remember. I said, why didn't you tell me? She said, I just didn't want to. I said, when you get all ready, we're going to stay. And I want you to sit down and I'm going to have my carol ringers. I'm going to talk to them with your people. So I did that. The carol ringers sat down and turned around. And I said, I always tell you that people remember you and you make an impression. 10 years ago, the carol ringers talked too much and really put a damper on this choir back here. Most of these ladies are ones that were there. So I'm going to have their director give you, and the ringers give you a grade after every rehearsal.
Oh no.
And if you make an A, we're fine. If you make a B, you have to go to one class with me. And I'll find a history of handbells that will be very boring.
Way to lay it out.
If you make a C, you have to go to 2 classes. If you ever make a D, you're with me the rest of this festival all the time. And I'm pretty boring. You know. And one girl looked up, she said, I think you mean this. I said, I do. They were wonderful.
Nice.
And it was really nice to have that happen because that group learned. And when I told other groups, they learned that their reputation does make a difference, not just musical, but otherwise too.
Nancy, that's
So I had to tell you that because it was when you were there.
Love it. I love it. Thank you, Nancy, so much. I wish we had more time. We've got another interview lined up and need to get rolling onto, but thank you so much for taking the time with us today.
You're welcome. This was delightful. Okay, you have a good day too.
You too. Take care.
Thank you, Nancy.
Bye-bye.
Bye.